Today, I'm joined by Dave Wilkins, former SDR director at Snowflake, who built a team with a lower acceptance rate than Harvard. He doesn't just promote top performers to leadership. Why? Because being a great SDR doesn't always mean you will be a great leader. Just like Wayne Rooney and Frank Lampard were amazing footballers, but struggled as managers. Most people get it wrong when picking SDR leaders, but in this episode, Dave and I break down 3 traits that actually matter. By the end, you will know how to spot and grow leaders who can truly take your team to the next level. Welcome back to the Outbound Kitchen podcast. I'm Eric, the Outbound Chef, and this is your go-to resource for scaling outbound. Let's get cooking. In your experience, what unconventional traits have you found to be surprisingly predictive of SDR success?
Yeah, first of all, thanks ever so much for letting me join. I've got a lot to live up to seeing some of the other guests you've had on the show. So hopefully I won't bring the quality down too much today. So what are the kind of unique traits? So for those of you that don't know my background too much, as with everyone, I fell into the SDR world. I thought I was going to be a rugby coach. I thought I was going to be a teacher. And then suddenly I got offered a thing called a business development rep role. And my path to B2B SaaS is a lot like a lot of people. And really how I look at talent, I don't care about what school you go to. I don't care what MBA you have. That great, well done. Great. But what I'm looking for are the intangibles. So I'm looking for people that have got resiliency. I'm looking for people who've got could perform well under pressure. I'm looking for people that are really strong communicators. I'm looking for people that don't have to be extroverts, but they need to be confident. And all these pieces, you can find talent from lots of different places. So we've hired people from the retail space, from the in Dutch, the only bit of Dutch I know, the horeca, the bar people, the kind of customer service facing roles, but also people there was a guy who I didn't hire and I was really annoyed because it wasn't my fault. It wasn't my fault we didn't hire the person, but he used to sell dirt bikes when he was 12 years old in Australia. And I was like, whoa. So like he was fixing dirt bikes that he wasn't actually legally allowed to drive himself. And then he went and then started selling cars and things like that by the time he was 16. That kind of entrepreneurial resilient mindset. So yeah, those are the kind of people who talent I look for.
I was just checking what was a dirt bike. Sorry, because that's the first time I'm hearing about a dirt bike. So, okay, so let's unpack how do you, because you mentioned the traits you are looking for. So sounds like you are not focused too much on the pedigree of the person, not the experience, not the degree, but sounds like you are looking for some experience from some industries, but you are talking about soft skills here a lot.
Yeah.
How do you assess that during the process?
Yeah.
During the hiring process.
So I can use a great example. So I used to be at Snowflake leading the EMEA sales development motion. And we had a stat that we were really proud of as a leadership team at Snowflake, how the acceptance rate to become an SDR at Snowflake was it was lower than it was to get into Harvard.
Okay. So you mean from a candidate to getting a job?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
And so that was a stat that we were always really proud of, that we hired A players. And how do we do that? There is sayings in hiring, like if there's doubt, there's no doubt. So if you've got a candidate and you've just got a bad feeling about that person, like, oh, I'm not sure, like that feeling's never going to go away. And you should always trust your gut. So there's that piece, but then also there has to be a data-driven approach to it as well.
Yep.
So I can't take credit for this, but Matthias, a SDR leader in the Amsterdam office who's doing an incredible job now as an AE at Snowflake. He developed a really good scorecard where we graded intangibles that we were looking for, weighted those intangibles of the importance that for the business, and then people could interview however they wanted, but they had to score them on the scorecard, and then we were able to do it the weighted average that we found. It had to pass a certain threshold, and then we would hire those people. And what resulted in the former Finnish Winter Olympian snowboarder who no sales experience whatsoever, but he came on board as an SDR and is absolutely killing it. Those I think are the best ways of doing it. You have the gut feeling, but you need to have a level of a data-driven approach as well to the hiring, because then you're already setting up the onboarding process. You already know what are the strengths and the areas of improvement for people, but also you can give those candidates that aren't successful real strong feedback as to why they were not successful that time, and give them coaching development areas.
Okay, so let's unpack because you are talking about Snowflake, and I think for hiring specifically, depending on the stage of your business, also the traits you are assessing can be different. So let's talk about Snowflake and what you are doing there. You are talking about the weights of each trait on your scorecard. So what were the highest trait on your scorecard?
It was resiliency. It
Resilience.
was the ability to adapt to change.
I love this one.
Yeah, it's Snowflake. It's one of the largest, it's still growing enterprise SaaS businesses out there, and priorities change a lot, and then that trickles down to the SDR team, and we need to understand is, can they handle that? Can they handle those pivots that are going to happen in the business? And those are the two that we found that are really critical for success.
Absolutely. So how do you assess that in
Yeah.
the process?
Yeah. So it's I have all these terrible sayings, but one of the other ones is about you want to make the training harder than the game.
Okay.
Those from a sports background, they know that all too well. You can't go into a football game, a rugby game, and have just not done any kind of intense training, because then when you get to the game, you're not at that speed. So we would put the pressure on people within the interview process. We would ask questions and we would dig into their answers, and we would really not intentionally try and trip them up, but we would really try and understand, make sure that they weren't just saying an answer for saying the answer's sake. But we would really go like 3 whys down. Why? Talk to me about this. You said this number. Explain to me about this. And so we would make it, and then we can gauge about, okay, are they calm? Are they ruffled by having this kind of scrutiny put onto them? And then that would be on the SDR leadership side. Then we would have marketing people or sales leaders speak to them. So we were able to get that real clarity then in terms of those areas, for which we then graded them.
Okay, sounds like you are asking a lot of questions for resiliency specifically. And the other one, you are talking about also how they can adapt to change. How do you assess that during the process?
Yeah. So again, with the SDR role, it's sometimes seen as just an entry level role, just an entry level role. But what I mean by that is they're not going to have the professional experience of you and I who've been working for 10 plus years. And so we would ask for situations, and we'd ask about how they overcame those challenges and how they were able to adapt to change. Um, we'd also do that in the reference check as well. But it's that real. You have to ask people about the experiences that they've had, and then really dig into those.
Could you give an example about that?
Yeah. So, um, oh, this is going to be good. This is going to be good podcasting whilst I think about what an example. Um, the I think the big piece was, yeah, you would ask, like, tell me a time when you were asked to do something, and then a week later you were asked to do something different. Talk me through what the situation was, um, and leave it open ended, because what you're trying to understand from people is the problem, um, what steps they took to get to the ultimate solution that they found. So you're trying to get them to also, it's all blended in, like this kind of critical thinking as well, vulnerability pieces as well. So it's trying to asking these kind of open-ended situational questions.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was asking you that because someone that can adapt to change. I work for a company that was most of the time early stage,
Yeah.
and this one is super important for me because sometimes I like candidates coming from Zendesk, from Salesforce, those really large organization, and I'm not saying it's bad, but the problem with this organization, if you join an early stage company, is you don't have all the support you need for an SDR team. So you should adapt to the new situation. And that's something that was super important for us because I know I've heard a lot of during my experience that sometimes people, that's an SDR from Salesforce, he's the number one in his region. Yeah. Oh, that's a great candidate. No, for me, it's not a great candidate because can they adapt to our situation? Because at Salesforce, they have a lot of support for marketing. They don't need to build the list. For example, at our stage, we don't have all the support or enablement we need to have them to be successful. So we need someone that can adapt to that. And that's why for me this one is so important. And like you were mentioning, even for you at the Snowflake stage, it was still an important.
Yeah, it's when you come from a place that's got everything. So you've got, it's the it, again, sports analogy. You're in the Premier League. You're playing. Well, I would say Man United, but they're not doing very well right now. And I don't want to say Man City. So another team who are doing very well, and then you go out on loan to a League Two team where you're training on a school pitch, and you don't have physios, you don't have um, the ability to have high class facilities. It's a real change. And culture shock. And some people thrive, but other people, and it's no issue. They're brilliant SDRs, but they have the structure around them to be successful in these enterprise organizations. Ask them to build a list at a startup that doesn't know product market fit, and you're having to figure it out. I mean, they're just going to go, "Hmm, like, how do I do this?"
Yep, exactly. And now let's focus. And we're going to switch also about how you spot the future leader because that's something I know it's important. But what's your favorite question during the process, the hiring process?
Ah, yeah,
The question to ask.
yeah. Uh, so I have two. Tell me about a time that you failed.
Okay. And what are you assessing here?
Yeah. So, um, everybody, like uh, again, baseball players, if they're good, they hit 3 out of 10 balls in baseball. Same for me. I've had loads of failures in my career, but I've learned from them. I've reflected on what I always look at myself. What could I have done better? And then try and do something different the next time. And what you're looking for in this situation is critical thinking. Okay, so this happened, but then I did A, B, and C. and this didn't happen again. So that's a good one. And then another one is tell me about something on your tell me about something that you're most proud of that is not on your CV. Because then you really start to understand people's passions and people's enthusiasm. Because everybody tries to dump everything on their CV. But who's the real you? Are you volunteering? Are you looking after, do you have sick relatives? Do you go and do you just go mountain biking on the weekends? Trying to understand people's passions as well is a really good one.
And what are you assessing here, or what type of answer are you looking for? So you are talking about if they are enthusiastic about those passions, but what else?
Trying to understand a bit more about them as well, trying to understand what makes them tick, what's important to them in their lives. A brilliant SDR that I hired a few years ago, she's a single mum and had 2 kids when she was going through university. Just the resilience in her, the how she got through the adversity. We don't know what it's like to be pregnant, but to do it during a stressful period like going through university, that's I was really impressed by that and the passion that she spoke of in that sense. And she's been an absolute incredible SDR, and she's gonna go off and do amazing things in her next stages as well. So yeah.
And now let's focus about maybe for the future, and maybe we don't know yet, but let's think about the next 5 years. What traits or soft skills do you think will be important for SDRs?
Yeah. I think the big thing is, if you look on the internet, if you look on LinkedIn, everything's dead. And I will want the people that are watching this, whoever says that stuff's dead is trying to sell you something. They're trying to sell their alternative. Things aren't dead. Things evolve. Things change. And when I started out as my first role as an SDR, I had Salesforce and had a phone, and that was it. There was nothing else. We had to do everything else ourselves. And then if we look now, where there's like Dave Delaney from Tenbound, he created this amazing picture graph of the thousands of technologies that you can have in each of these different spaces. There's so much more noise out there, and the noise is only going to ever increase. So I think the big trait is going to have to be resilience and how to adapt to change. Those are the 2 big things, and those 2 will never change as my pieces of what we're looking for SDR talent in the next 5, 10, 500 years.
For me, there is one that I've added on the list that before was not to focus on. This one is business acumen. Because like what you just mentioned here about the tools landscape, for example, you have like more and more tools, but on top of that, I would add that outbound is getting harder because you are saying, yeah, when I started, I just had like Salesforce and a phone, and that was it. For me, I was using at the first company, I used Excel, Salesforce, Hunter.io, and Outlook for and that was it. And LinkedIn. And that was it. And it was so much easier, I would say, like when I started to just book meetings. Now it's getting way more harder. And so business acumen for me, that's something that I'm also assessing. I'm not saying that's the only thing I say, oh yeah, if they don't have business acumen, that's over. But business acumen is one, because now when you have a prospect on the phone, you want to make sure that your SDR is already maybe ready. I'm not saying they should know everything about, for example, a CFO. If we're talking to a CFO, but they should have like some knowledge about what's the day-to-day of a CFO, what's their pain, because I don't think that's something we can replace. Because if we talk about AI and stuff like that, AI can't replace that from India. And that's why I think business acumen is one really thing, a soft skill that I think will be key in the next 5 years now.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the something that we did at Infoblox at a sales kickoff once is we got the CEO of the business to come in and talk with the SDRs, Jasper Anderson. And we asked him, like, hey, you're a C-level. How do we get in front of you? How do I engage with you? And he was like, well, it's very difficult. But he would just say, like, you need to call me at 7:30 in the morning, because that is the only time that I'll be around. That half an hour between 7:30 and 8 Pacific time, I might pick up the phone. And that really helped the SDRs to understand then, okay, if I really want to talk to the execs who would have access to big budgets, I need to think differently about how to engage with these people. Yep. And yeah, I think that's I agree, and it's something I've been instilling in the teams that I've led for years.
Yeah, and what you just mentioned here, that's something also we were doing. Last example, for example, when we were at Chili Piper, so we were selling to different teams, and we had the VP of sales, the ops person, the VP of marketing talking to the team.
Yeah.
And because we are selling to different teams, so we wanted to try to understand what was the day-to-day of a VP of sales of 100 reps, for example, versus the marketing team. And that was interesting because at least they understand now the perspective also of their prospect, not just because most of the time in the training you give to your team it's just like a Google Doc with okay, your ICP is this, your buyer persona is this, here's the common problems, but also hearing and talking to the prospect, to a real prospect, that's helpful.
Yeah, I met with an old work colleague of mine, and he asked some of his customers to come and speak with the SDRs, as well, like chief information security officers. He said, like, I'm gonna take you for lunch. I'm gonna bring some SDRs with me, and I want you to talk to them as well. And I think, yeah, having something on a piece of paper is great, awesome. That's my prop for the day. But living and breathing, and things change and develop, and you need to have that back and forth to really understand real challenges.
Okay, so let's switch now on spotting future leaders, because I know you are a second line manager at Snowflake, so and I think actually if having great team also is having great leaders also, because on top of hiring the right people, but also having great leaders. So how do you spot future leaders? Do you start, because if we talk about Snowflake, but we can focus about other companies, but if we talk about Snowflake, do you spot that in the hiring process or later when they are at Snowflake, or what's your process?
Yeah, I think you've got to give people time to think about what they want to do in the professional world, and who you might think is you've identified as a leader might just say, I want to be in CSM, customer success manager, and that's fine. Yeah, that's no problem at all. So you got to give people time to really understand about what they want to do next. But the kind of things that I look for potential leadership talent are people that just coach and mentor people just in their day-to-day work. But then also look for people that go above and beyond their role. Yep. The big thing about being a leader is you have to do more than the job description, and it's all about building relationships. It's about aligning with different business units. It's about getting decisions from people that are 2, 3, 4 levels higher than you, and be able to do that. But also, be able to do that as well and not be handheld with that. So you're looking for those kind of traits within talent that you have in the business to who are gonna who are doing that themselves. And then when you started identifying those people, then it's really just having those conversations about, okay, well, what do you want to do next? Where do you see as your next role? And then you hope, even though hope's not a strategy, you you want people to go, oh, actually, I want to be in leadership. And you go, oh, well, funny that, because I've been noticing all these things that you've been doing and these traits. So that for me is that okay, when you identify people, it's that kind of piece of, okay, they're doing those pieces above and beyond their pay grade, their job description.
Yeah. Let's focus on two things here. Let's focus on someone that maybe they are doing the things you are saying here, and then they say, yeah, they want to be in leadership, and then the opposite about someone that, for example, wants to be in leadership but don't do those things at all. How do you handle those conversations?
Yeah. So you've got to, it's about having radical candor with them. You've got to be like, well, if you want to do this, these are some of the expectations that come with a leadership role. So talk to me. Are you doing additional coaching and mentoring? What other things are you doing that are above and beyond your role? And you're trying to get them to understand and realize what's actually involved. People that just want to become leaders because they think they're going to make more money never succeed in leadership, because the dirty truth is you're not going to earn as much money as a leader as you would if you were an AE.
Yeah.
You're just not. And um and sometimes your SDRs might earn more than you if they're having an amazing month. But if your team's not performing, then you're not going to earn as much as them. So you've got to be looking for talent that see leadership as a vocation, that are wanting to help people and develop people, but also have a strategy and a vision for doing that as well. And it's pretty easy to see and identify those people who just want more money by getting promoted into a leadership role.
Yeah, actually, I had on the podcast, like I think there was I don't know if it was this year or last year, but Kevin Dorsey on the show, and we were talking about first time managers. And yeah, he gave me like 3 questions you should ask to future leaders. Are you willing to don't have any control on your income? That's the first one. Because like you are saying, oh no, actually, that was one of the first question you was asking, because as a leader, you don't, even though you are implementing new processes, new ways of doing things, you don't have like a direct impact on your income versus being an SDR or being an AE. On if you work really hard, yes, you can make more money. But as a leader, it takes sometimes weeks or months just for you to see that on your income. So that's one. Are you And so yeah, the impact of your efforts also, that's the other one. Are you okay to be working really hard and don't see any impact on the results of your team? Because sometimes it takes months just to see that. And as the IA, it's easier to see that. And the other one was also, are you okay to be to have your leader be mad at you when the team is not performing? And when the team is performing, the team gets the credit, not you.
Yeah. Yeah, KD's great, and he it's all true. Like, I've the best leaders I've had are the ones, and ones that we brought up are the ones who are just caring about developing talent and build something, and not worried about their pay packet for month 1 to month 2, because they know in month 6, 7, 8, 9 it's going to be great. And I actually I was an AE and I was quite good. I do very well as an AE. I was very successful, but I found the pressure less as a leader than an AE because, yeah, I knew that I had confidence that I can build very strong teams. And so I knew that the output would always come. So I never, I didn't feel pressure like as I did with an AE where like you've got to close this quarter. You've got 3 deals that is the last month of the quarter. How do you deal with the legal and procurement and your legal and yeah, I found that the pressure was less in the leadership role.
Interesting. I've never been an A, so I can't compare. So on that. So, but I know on the leadership side, so a lot to what I'm doing also with people who want to be in leadership, I give them also the things I didn't like about I don't like about being an SDR leader, because I don't want to be like, oh yeah, all the great things about the role, but also the bad things about the role. And one of them, for example, um, is if you can build your team, it's great, I think, because you can pick your SDRs and you're happy about the team you're building. But for example, when I was sometimes you take a team where you didn't hire the right for the people that you're working with, can be challenging, and that's something I prep them about, that to say, hey, if you want to be a leader, you need to prepare about that. And sometimes also being a leader also is helping the people on your team that maybe being an SDR is not the right fit for them, and you need to be here to show them maybe find what's their what they want to do. And sometimes it's not being insidious. And I think this one for me it was hard sometimes, because I was really trying to no, if they are an SDR they want to be an SDR, and sometimes the rate is they don't. So, and I have people that I was working with that I'm still in touch with them and they are not SDRs anymore. They are doing something else, but they are not SDRs.
Yeah. I also tell leaders as well, like you can't people that go from being their peer to being their boss, it's lonely. You can't
Yeah.
you can't be friends with them anymore with your with the team that you used to be part of. You can't be in the WhatsApp groups. You can't go out drinking with them. And some people accept that and realize that also that you're when I first became a leader, I was invited onto a boat with all the the senior sales leaders in the region, and I was the youngest one by about 15 years. And it was really lonely for a while because I was just this late 20s guy who was doing very well. And then I was with a bunch of people who could have been my dad. And it was really lonely for a long time until you start building those relationships. And I think that's another big thing as well. But also that's why being part of communities like SDR Leaders of EMEA and SDR Leaders of USA are really important. Good plug.
Great segue. No, yeah, that's another point also. Yeah, being leader it's lonely. And now I had another question also about future talent, future leaders talent.
Yeah.
How do you what's your take on high performing SDRs and the ones that have true leadership potential?
Yeah. So let's use the sports analogy again. Wayne Rooney, fantastic footballer. Frank Lampard, fantastic footballer. Paul Scholes, fantastic footballer. Terrible managers. And just because you're a great player doesn't mean you're going to be a great leader and a great manager. And so, again, it goes back to the piece that you said about KD as well. Asking these questions and trying to understand, okay, are these people more coin driven than people driven? If they're just worried about making their own money, then being an SDR leader, being a leader as a whole isn't for them. But if they are people driven, if they want to improve people's lives, if they want to be a part of something bigger, then that's a good fit. And I promoted an SDR that was he had real tough region, so he never quite overachieved ever. He was always like 70-80% performance, but he was a very strong manager and leader and coach. And yeah, sometimes it doesn't have to be the amazing 200% of quota people who are going to make managers. Sometimes it's that mid pit talent who perform and are incredible.
Yes, thank you for saying that because I saw that. I don't remember if it was on LinkedIn or X, like in this week or last week. Someone was saying, Ed, for example, if you promote someone from your team, it should be your highest performer. And I disagree with that because of what you just mentioned. Because unfortunately, I think leaders, they are already doing the things before being in the role. They're not like just performing and move to a leadership position. At some companies, I've seen that. Well, unfortunately, those person they move to a manager role and then they didn't like it.
Yeah.
Because they say, "Yeah, you are the highest performer. You should be in this position," and they stay like 3-6 months in the role and then they move to an IC role again because they say, "Yeah, it's not for me." And that's why also I think if we go back to all the tough things about being a leader, I think that's why also you should focus on the people that already doing the right thing. So
100%.
now let's focus about how do you develop those talents, because we said we are talking about spotting those future leaders. Now, how you develop them. So could you share like some training programs of things that you implement with your team that works with those future leaders?
Yeah. So when I was at Infoblox, I was very lucky where we had a very strong leadership development program, and I was able to get access to some really good external coaching and training courses that um, helped me prepare for the theory of situations that were going to arise. And so what I what I try really hard, and again, I don't always get it right. So I was going to say that off the bat, in case somebody's hearing this, like from prior, like I've never got it completely right, but it's about you need to find that person who is promoted. You need to find them a mentor. You need to find them somebody who's a bit outside of the business unit, a couple of levels higher, so that they can have an external person rather than myself, um, to ask questions, to get feedback. And I think training courses like what Corn Ferry do, um, there's got real strong leadership development programs of things as well that leaders should go on. Um, I think it's encourage people to read leadership books. I Where is it? I think no, it's disappeared. My copy. I used to have a book. I always tell my leaders to get it, called "It's Your Ship," and it's about
Okay.
an admiral in the U.S. Navy, but his methodology is like his mission is the mission, and he'll do anything that is legal and not, again, no war crimes, to achieve the mission. And he doesn't go and he doesn't wait here to be told. He goes and does it. Um, and those are the kind of things that try and do. And then it's also that kind of mentor, the coaching and situational coaching on my end as well. Okay, this came up. Okay, well, talk me through what you did, what you could have done differently the next time. Okay, when you have that next conversation, let's role play it now so we understand what we can do to get to be better for the next time. So do those kind of things for the leaders as well.
You talk about a few resources. For me, the one that helped me the most was first KD actually with everything he's doing. Now I think he has like a private community for developing leaders also.
Yeah.
But I think he had like a great frameworks for leaders, and that's one. Books. I've read like a few Radical Candor actually. It's a really great book to learn more about how to be a great leader at being radical, not just by caring, but also being about. It's not about being right, but more like about focused on being radical with your team. So now let's focus on. We were talking earlier about focus. Maybe if some company promotes the highest performers, but in your opinion, what's the biggest mistake companies make when they are trying to develop SDR leaders, and how can they avoid it?
I really think that SDR leaders should have a closing role before they move to management. And why do I say that? Because if you will gain more respect and authority to the sales leaders that you're working with if they know that you can actually close business.
Okay.
And again, I've not I that's my belief, and I've not been able to do that as much as I wanted to with some of the talent we promoted in. But the big thing for me when I became an SDR leader is I had credibility with the sales leadership people that I'd be working with because they knew that I could close deals.
Okay. So what you are saying is maybe they should move them to an AE role first before moving them to a leadership role?
Yeah, I think it's that piece, and again, it's about okay, are you willing to go above and beyond? So when I was being an AE, I was also being tasked to go and help manage a outsourced SDR team that we had in Lisbon. So I would be closing deals, but then also managing an SDR team as well, and having like real quite intense one-to-one mentoring and coaching as well. And that really, yeah, I went above and beyond my pay grade and my job description because I knew the path that I was wanted to go on. And I think sometimes people just, and again, it's everybody does it. I was the same. You want to get promoted, you want to get higher, more money, but you should also have a plan about what your career is and about what your end goal is. So yeah, I think you want to, that's really a big thing that I would recommend.
Okay. For me, I have one that I've seen a couple of times with early stage companies specifically, because it's not, I think for bigger companies, I don't think that's a mistake they are making, but in early stage companies, they most of the time when they are promoting someone to being their leader, sometimes it's their first role as a manager, and they have really high expectations on this person. And we were talking a lot about resources or training you are putting in place. You don't have anything about that at the company, and they have this expectation that this person, that's their first time manager, and then driving results really quickly. And I think the mistake here, it's I'm not saying they shouldn't hire internally, but I think if they're building the team and looking to build outbound, if you talk about outbound specifically, they should hire someone that already has this experience of building, not promoting someone that needs to build, but also figure out being a leader at the same time. And I think that's a mistake I've seen 3 times already.
Right there. Because you have that situation where you have the situation where it's like you go from being in primary school to then going to high school. So you're the biggest kid in primary school, and then you go to high school, and then which is like go from an SDR to a leadership role, and then you're the new kid at school, and the youngest one there, and you have no idea where anything is. And then it's like, right, here you go. You're now responsible for €500,000 in headcount and technology cost, and we need to see a 10x return of that. And you're like, what do you mean a budget and headcount? What is this? And we're setting people up for failure.
Yeah.
But that being said, we did a survey with the community that came out this week, and 40% of leaders said that they felt that they had the training and the resources needed for them to do their job. Sorry, they didn't have the resources to do their job. So 60% said they did. That's great. But then 80% of people said that they would want more professional development training.
Yeah.
So people still feel like they want to improve and they want to build, they want to get better. And I think that's a big piece where we all as leaders can do better is helping to give people opportunities for coaching and development.
I just shared the link in the chat for those who are here on the live. Actually, if I think you're true because it's most of the time you have training for reps, SDRs or AEs, but most of the time you don't have like resources for leaders.
Yeah.
It's for all the companies I used to work at, one was had like training for managers. The rest, it's just training for the reps, but that's it. That was it.
In Infoblox, I was spoiled at Infoblox with the amount of professional development training that we had. I was spoiled. I thought that would be like it where it is everywhere else, and it definitely wasn't.
Now, let's talk about the future. How do you see AI impacting leadership roles in the coming years?
So 27%, and I'm going to put SDRs in this bucket. So 27% of sellers' time is spent on selling. The rest of their time is on admin tasks. And so if we can create processes and automations and then use AI to give back 10% of the admin time back to sellers, what's the revenue contribution that we would see from those people? And that's where I see AI being its most optimal, is giving people back time to do their jobs. So, and it will trickle down on from a leadership side into an SDR side, is if we can give our SDRs back more time to just be booking meetings and making money, which is in the end what we're all trying to do, then that's where I see it being most optimal. Where I also have another saying, AI will make the good SDRs great, but it will make the bad SDRs lazier. How? Yeah. So, a good SDR will take AI and go, right, I'm trying to break into Outbound Kitchen. Tell me about some of the executive priorities of the business. Tell me about what those defined initiatives are for the business. Tell me about about Elric's personality style. And then I would use that information to create more curated content to do engaged outbound, because I sound like I know what I'm talking about, because I do. I've read, and I've distilled information from the internet, rather than looking at hours of 10Ks and yearly annual reports. I can get it all done in seconds. For the bad SDRs, it'll be, I'm just going to send out a bunch of really generic emails and do loads of just generic volume, and why am I not booking any meetings? And then it's the blame. It's no self-reflection. It's blaming other people. So that's what I think about AI.
Yeah, for this specifically, I agree. That's the biggest potential for AI. Increasing the selling time or prospecting time if you're an SDR. And the way AI is starting to do it, because I think we are just at the beginning. It's not just, oh yeah, it's ready yet, but we have account selection. And by account selection, I mean predictive scoring based on your current customer, how you can go after the similar customers, similar industry, similar traits. That's one. The research, like you were just talking about, I think it's AI is great at doing this. And what I'm seeing here specifically, if you talk about enterprise account, for example, it's great about researching those accounts and giving you what's top of mind for the business right now. And with one tool I'm using a lot right now is Perplexity, for example, for that specifically. Perplexity is so great about getting the last earning or getting the last annual report or 10K or 10Q, depending if you have like a 10Q, for example.
Sure.
Perplexity is so great. Also, I've seen that AI can do the same for more smaller accounts, mid-market or SMB, because sometimes you have a lot of information about that, and AI can find information or problems you can solve, and you don't need to do that. And I think it's just the beginning, because right now it's still I'm doing it with a customer right now, and I'm amazed by the things you can do that before we were doing manually, and that's I can't wait to see all the rest, all the great things you can do. And the last thing also that I think I can, for now, I'm still trying to figure out how to do it for this customer, but you have all of this information, and now you have like a talk track for the SDR, for example. You say, okay, these accounts, you can talk about this, or you can talk about this because in the last annual report, they've done this. And because I don't think AI is still capable of saying what's the best to say, for example, if we go back to business acumen.
Yeah, no, I think you're pretty right. And then things like Fathom for video, for example, that's a product like where you record your calls and then you can, so then you're not have, and then you can actually ask it questions about what were the priorities of the business. And so you don't have to be writing notes and not listening.
Yeah.
Those things. And then you can pull that stuff into your CRM as well, which is again to save more time and give more context and more data points.
So last question for today. What advice will you give to someone who wants to be a leader?
Don't wait for things to happen. You need to go and make it happen yourself. So do extra, help, be a mentor, your leader will see what you're doing, and you don't have to go, look at me, look what I'm doing. They will see if you're doing extras, if you're going above and beyond. So that would be my thing. Don't wait to be told, go and do.
And now a follow-up question on that, but let's focus on if you have like limited advancement opportunities at the company, because sometimes you don't have like internal opportunities. What's your advice?
Yeah, again, it's your responsibility to be asking your line manager, this is my career aspirations. What do you believe I need to do to get there? And companies all the time overpromise. Yeah, and this you'll get this, and this you'll do this. Okay, well, I think it's what you want to try and do, though, is you want to try and understand, okay, well, what the timeline's going to be, but what do I need to do to hit them? And then you need to report back on that every week. Hey, so, we discussed this. Well, this week I've done this, this, and this. Performance is this, this, and this. And so you need to push. You need to push. If you want a role, you need to push. You need to network. You need to build champions within the business as well. You can't wait.
Yeah, and also on top of that, I would add, because I had this situation with an SDR on my team at Chili Pepper. He wanted to be in a leadership role, and unfortunately, we don't have like saying, okay, in 6 months you can do that. So, but I knew that with this person, for example, every time I needed help with leadership stuff. I was working with this person just to build the confidence also, and also to show him we were here. I couldn't say, okay, in 6 months you will be a leader, because unfortunately the company was not growing at that time, and it's not like, okay, in 6 months we know we are going to hire someone. So no, it's that's the thing we are doing. But unfortunately, if you don't have any growth at the company, being realistic about maybe it can be a year or 2 years. Are you willing to wait? And if not, it's fine. But I think if you want to be a leader and you don't see any possibility at your company, maybe you need to switch to another company. Maybe go back to an SDR role, because if they don't have like an SDR manager role, for example, you will need to go back to an SDR role, and then because sometimes it's even one, they're not going to hire someone who don't have any experience outside of the company, but they will promote someone internally to do that. So
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, look, what you don't do is, well, somebody said to me once where they said they would help. Somebody wanted to be in a leadership role. They said, they were in a leadership role, but they wanted a promotion. And he said, if you need, this person said, if you need any help, let me know. And then I said, well, actually, I do need any help on this. He said, well, if I help you with this, I want you to promote me. And I was like, well, no, that's not how this works. That's just, yeah. So don't do that.
yeah. And also because even though you want to be a leader at some point, and the companies are growing, I think the only possibility you have to be promoted to the role, on top of doing everything right, the right things, obviously. The leader is leaving. That's one. Or the company is growing and they are adding more headcount. And if the companies are growing or the leader is not leaving, well, you need to wait.
Exactly.
Nice. So we are at the end of the session today. Before we leave, what's the best way to connect with you, Dave?
Yeah, find me on LinkedIn, normally on there. And also we have SDR Leaders of EMEA for SDR leaders who want that coaching, mentoring community. And we also have just launched SDR Leaders of USA, which has kind of blown up in the last 3 days. We've had about 200 people join the community. So yeah, those two places you can come to get free coaching, mentoring, advice, and support.
Perfect. I'll add the link in the description so people can join the EMEA community or the USA community.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Thanks, everyone. I see you on the next episode. If you find this live with Dave useful, you might enjoy my newsletter, Outbound Kitchen. You get a free version every Sunday. And last time I sent my 14 learnings about outbound in 2024. And there is a paid version also where you receive more in-depth content. I sent 5 already. The last one was the guide to building an enterprise prospecting system. The previous one was a guide on how to craft the ideal outbound SDR comp plan. And the previous one was your 24/7 cold call coach, perfect for you or your team, plus AR prompt templates. The next one will be on how to build your ideal customer's profile. If you're interested, subscribe using the link in the description.